Welcome everyone, I'm Mr. Eves, and today we're going to be talking about 4.1 multiplying decimals and whole numbers. We'll be on page 172, 12 to 19, 23 to 26, 30 to 32, and 40 to 42. This seems like a lot of work, but it's only 18 questions. So let's go ahead and start off into our assignment. Very first thing we're going to do is we're going to be talking about the objective. So before we multiplied whole numbers with or by whole numbers. So we multiplied whole numbers by whole numbers. Now we're going to multiply decimals and whole numbers. A couple key things we need to pay attention to is when multiplying decimals with decimals, when you multiply with a decimal and a whole number, the number of the decimal places in the product is the same as the number of the decimal places in the decimal factor. And we'll kind of get a little bit more detail of what that actually means today. We're also going to be talking about including zeros. You need to include the zeros at the end of a product in order to count the decimal places correctly. Once you place the decimal point, however, you can drop any zeros that occur at the end of the answer. So at the end after the decimal, we can get rid of those. Now let's go ahead and do a couple examples. So example 1. We have 35 times 3. And so we're just going to do normal. 5 times 3 is 15, carry the 1, put the 5 down low. 3 times 3 is 9, plus 1 is 10. And that's pretty straightforward for just a single digit multiplication. Next, example 2, we have 31 times 21. And when we're dealing with two digits, we have 21. So 2 and 1. So we're just going to deal with the first one, 1. We go 1 times 1 is 1. 1 times 3 is 3. Now the most important thing is we cross out that 1 and add a 0 for an extra placeholder, because now we're dealing with the tens place and we want to make sure that we start out in the tens. And so once we've done that, we go 2 times 1 is 2. 2 times 3 is 6. Then we're going to add those two together, and that gives us 1, 5, 6, which is 651. Now we're going to take those same numbers in example 1 and we're going to use it for example 3, but I'm going to put a decimal in there. So the nice thing about this is you forget about the decimal, just multiply like normal. So we know that this is going to be 105. But once we have that, we're going to see that we're going to ask ourselves how many numbers are actually behind the decimal. So the one that has a decimal, how many numbers are behind that? And so that's 1. And so we're going to start at the right and move our decimal over one spot. And now it gives us 10.5. Now the nice thing about this is we could estimate, so this is about 3. 3 times 3 is 9. Well, our answer is really close to 9. Or we could overestimate and say, well, that's close to 4. So 3 times 4 is 12, and 12 is really close to 10. So we know our answer is pretty close. Let's also do example 4, do the same thing, but I'm going to have it as 0.31 times 21, and you notice that it's all the same, add a 0, have 651. Now, we just count how many numbers are after the decimal, 1, 2, then we're going to move it over from the right 2 spots, so it's 6.51. Properties of multiplication. Commutative property, you can add any number in any order. So it doesn't matter, 5 times 6, 6 times 5, same thing. So order is our key word. Associative property, changing the grouping of the factors will not change the product. So basically, it doesn't matter how we group them when we're multiplying, we'll get the same answer. So grouping is our key word here for associative, and we talked about this when we did addition of decimals. And up here we have order. So order is our next key word that we want to focus on. So 4.1, page 172, we're going to start off on number 12. And to start off, you're going to see in your book it looks just like this, okay? That's how it looks, and I'm going to show you how I want you to work it. So we're going to write, I'm going to take the one that has the most amount of digits. So this one has 1, 2, 3 digits, and this one only has 2. So I'm going to put the one with the most amount on top. Then I just forget about the decimal and multiply like normal. We got that. There's our first one. Then I cross off the 2 and add a 0. go through the second one, and I've multiplied just like normal. So once I've done that, then I'm going to add them together. Now I just count how many numbers are behind it, and there's 2. So 2 numbers behind the decimal. Move it over 2 spots, and there's my answer. Now I'm going to show you another way. It's called the lattice method, and some of you have actually already done this before in 4th and 5th grade. I'm just going to kind of review it. So we'll set up our little box and set up our numbers. So I put the bigger number still on top, so I have it right up here, and I just threw my decimal right on the line. It doesn't matter. And then I put my 2 other numbers down there. And that's how you set up a lattice. So if it's 3 long and 2 tall, that's how you do it. And then you're just going to divide them by cutting them in half, make a couple triangles like that. So really simple. Now, in order for us to do this, we're going to go 5 times 2. And when we do that, we put the 0, because 5 times 2 is 10, we put the 0 there and then the 1 up top. Then we go to the next one, we say 5 times 3, which is 15. We put the 15, 5 down there, 1 up top, and then 5 times 0 is 0, so we put 0 and 0. Then we go to the next row. We're right here. Do the same thing. 5 times 2 is 10. Put the 0 and 1. Do the same thing. 5 times 3 is 15, and then 5 times 0 is 0. Once we have this, then we're going to extend our lines out. So I extend those lines out, and this is going to help me understand which ones I need to add. So I have 0 plus nothing, so that's 0. I have 5 plus 1 plus 0, which is 6. Then I have 0 plus 1 plus 5 plus 1, which is 7. Then I have 0 plus 0 plus 1, which is 1, and then 0 at the end. So that leaves me with 0. Once again, I'm going to count how many numbers are behind the decimal, which is 2 up there, so I'm going to move it over 2 spots, so it's 17.60. And I could drop off that 0, which would be 17.6. Alright, number 23 is algebra. Remember, when we have a number next to a letter, that means to multiply. So I set it up as a multiplication. I went ahead and took off the 0 in front because we really don't need it. And that gives me 120. Then how many spots are behind the decimal? Well, there's 1, so it's going to move over, and that's going to be 12. So it's 12. So this represents 12 because 120 times 0.1 is 12. So I write that over there, and then I bring down the plus 3, and that gives me 12 plus 3, which is 15. That's how you're going to do the algebra section. I hope you enjoyed this quick lesson. It was brought to you by the one and only Mr. Eves. I hope you have a great day.